Welcome back. The Trump administration now reportedly looking to expand restrictions on NVIDIA chip sales to China to cover its H20 chips. This after Chinese AI model DeepSeek said that its system was built at a fraction of the cost using older NVIDIA chips. OpenAI says it has evidence DeepSeek used its model to train the open source competitor. Alibaba, meanwhile, touting its latest AI model, claiming that it surpasses DeepSeek, OpenAI, and Meta. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley now introducing legislation to cut off all U.S.-China cooperation regarding AI. Joining us now is Gatestone Institute senior fellow and the author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, Gordon Chang, back with us. Gordon, good to see you. Give us your analysis, first off, of DeepSeek and all of this hype around this Chinese AI model.
Yeah, well, DeepSeek, because it's open source, we know that it's better than anything else on the market. But the point is, this was distilled from GPT-4, OpenAI's AI. And clearly, this is a violation of the terms of service, which means it's a violation of intellectual property rights. So they stole this. But the one thing that really concerns me, Maria, is that this release of R1 model of DeepSeek, January 20, new president in the United States, also coincides with a propaganda blitz by the Communist Party on the futility of sanctions. This is all a little bit too convenient. I think this was orchestrated at the top of the political system in China.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, look, hopefully the Trump administration will institute much tougher policy when it comes to China after 4 years of allowing China to walk all over the United States. What kind of policy do you want to see out of the Trump administration, Gordon?
Certainly a ban on almost all chip sales to China. It's a complicated issue. You know, you don't want to, let's say, ban legacy chips, but I think we really need to do that because this is an existential struggle, as the Chinese say. And so we've got to take extraordinary measures. Now, David Sachs, who is President Trump's AI advisor, has said, look, yeah, the Chinese stole this from OpenAI. Well, now we know that. There needs to be a cost for that, because if we don't impose those costs, China's just going to continue to do this again and again and again, which means that all of the Trump administration's investment into AI will be for naught, because it'll just be shipped over to the Chinese for free.
Yeah, DeepSeek's terms of service shows that it collects and stores data, user data in China, sparking similar national security concerns, which led to the crackdown of TikTok. When are we going to understand this is how China operates? These are the laws, that anything goes back to the Chinese Communist Party, and they do store data.
Yeah, this is going to be actually worse than TikTok in terms of data theft and data taking, because, you know, AI, you just put in all your valuable information and data and everything else, and it just absorbs it into China. So clearly, this is worse than TikTok when it comes to data.
I want to just say that I learned while I was on the ground in Davos, and I know you've said this as well, Xi Jinping is much weaker than people understand. In fact, what my source told me was that the military was taken away from him. He doesn't even oversee the military anymore. Someone else is overseeing the military. What can you tell us about Xi Jinping right now?
Well, yes, I think that that's certainly true because, you know, in military propaganda organs, they are praising what they call, quote unquote, collective leadership.
Correct.
That is very much an attack directly on Xi Jinping's dictatorial management style. So clearly the military is very unhappy. We've seen all of these purges throughout the Chinese military, but especially in the Rocket Force, which is the branch that controls almost all the nuclear weapons of China. This is a really dangerous situation where you have infighting at the top of the party.
And I was told that after he had a mini stroke last summer was when the military oversight was taken away from him. And it was given to, quote unquote, his brother, someone else who he's always with. Not really his brother, but they call him his brother. Look, Italian officials are now blocking DeepSeek on Apple and Google app stores. Fox Business has confirmed that DeepSeek will not respond to questions related to Xi Jinping, the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest, the Uyghurs, whether Xi Jinping is a good leader or not. When asked about Taiwan, DeepSeek said it is, quote, an inalienable part of China, Gordon. This is what we got from DeepSeek.
Well, you know, DeepSeek itself says that it is compliance with all Chinese laws and regulations and upholds core socialist values. So, yeah, of course, this is what's going to happen when you have Chinese AI. And the problem is it's not only in China, it's going to be around the world where we're going to have Chinese propaganda spread through AI.
Rebecca.
Yeah, Gordon, I just want to ask you, we have seen Trump 2.0 really take charge. Like, he knows how the sausage is made now, and he doesn't get up for re-election. So let's do this thing, which I'm in love with. But one thing I noticed is last month, before he came in, China was already talking about 20-something companies in the U.S. putting sanctions against them, banning them because they're selling dual-use components to Taiwan. So now that we've got this chip situation heating up, Trump just came in, like you said, it was Inauguration Day. What can Trump actually do to act? Because it's been happening. The balloons have been coming. How long have we known that they've been stealing our IP? And now that AI is actually starting to be materialized and going to be monetized, this is when they're announcing, we stole your stuff and we're going to keep using it.
Yeah, but don't underestimate President Trump. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows exactly how they try to compromise the United States. On the one hand, he's inviting him to the inauguration. On the other hand, he's putting tariffs on him. So you just don't know what President Trump is thinking regarding China at any one time, or anybody.
Yeah, this is, I think, on the part of Trump is the Jedi mind trick on the Chinese.
Right.
We're going to be nice to you on the surface, but we're going to give you a really hard time. And Rebecca, to answer your question, we have known about Chinese IP theft directed by the top of the Communist Party for decades.
That's right.
So this is not new.
I know. So how can we fix it? How can we change it?
Is it going to be tariffs, exporting controls with chips, a combination of both? How do we fight back?
Everything of the above. The Chinese economy right now is very weak. Xi Jinping's only hope is to export more, which means he's put his fate in our hands.
Wow.
And that means we have the ability to leverage China.
Hit them where it hurts.
We got to hit them where it hurts.
Look how aggressive.
Don't rescue the Chinese right now.
Absolutely
That's the problem.
That's right. And look how aggressive the CCP has been. They're in everybody's phones.
Yeah.
Okay. They have completely hacked the telecom industry in America. Hackers linked to China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, all are using this AI technology now. Separately, Google's Gemini to support hacking activity against the United States, according to the Wall Street Journal. The Journal writes this: they appeared to treat Gemini more as a research assistant than a strategic asset, relying on it for tasks intended to boost productivity rather than to develop fearsome new hacking techniques. Gordon, this is separate and apart from the recent hack from China into AT&T and all of these other major telecom carriers. Everyone's talking about this. In Washington, this was a really scary thing that happened because they tried to hack Trump and the cabinet as well.
Yes, they hack everybody, and clearly they're using our own AI, which is not only Google's, but they're also using OpenAI's AI. So clearly they have just decided to take the best tools in America and use them against us. And we just got to understand that this is a struggle, and there's only going to be one winner.
Yep.
Perfect.
We have the medical supply chain problem. We can't complete. What about our medicine?
Yeah. And by the way, we've known this for at least 5 years.
Yes.
During COVID.
Yes.
The Chinese propaganda tweeted out, well, maybe we won't send the underlying materials for prescription drugs to America. We know they need them. Let them get sick.
In March of 2020, they said they were going to throw the U.S. into a mighty sea of coronavirus, was their phrase.
That's right.
So it's very clear what they're intend to do.
And watch their words, because they choose the words very carefully.
They always telegraph their punches.
Correct. All right, Gordon, good to see you. Thanks very much for weighing in on all of that, Gordon Chang. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Good Thursday morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Thursday, January 30th. It is just before 7 a.m. on the East Coast. We've got breaking news this morning. Hundreds of first responders are now desperately searching Washington, D.C.'s Potomac River for any survivors after a plane operated by American Airlines subsidiary PSA collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter last night at 9 o'clock at night. This happened near Reagan National Airport last night, both aircrafts crashing into the dark, icy water beneath them. As of right now, no survivors have been recovered. There were 60 passengers and 4 crew members on the passenger jet. That includes several members and coaches from the U.S. figure skating team. They were returning from a camp in Wichita, Kansas. 3 soldiers were said to be on board of the military chopper. Terrifying audio captured the moment the crash occurred. Watch.
Did you see that? Go around, climb, maintain 3,000. Blackjack 3, can you return to base? Blackjack 3, proceed directly to Glebe. I need you to land. I need you to land immediately. Can you go to Dallas for a few minutes? Can you go to Baltimore?
President Trump has been briefed on the situation. The president writes this on Truth Social. This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Authorities will hold a press conference this morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. We will take you there to the Reagan National Airport to get the very latest. Of course, we're covering it all morning long, and we'll bring you the very latest we find. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill this morning, more Senate confirmation hearings underway for President Trump's cabinet. FBI Director nominee Kash Patel and DNI nominee Tulsi Gabbard will face Senate committees today after things got heated yesterday with Health and Human Services Secretary nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He was forced to defend himself against attacks from Democrats. Watch.
I don't want to take food away from anybody. If you like a cheeseburger, a McDonald's cheeseburger, a Diet Coke, which my boss loves, and you should be able to get them, but you should know what the impacts are on your family and on your health. And all these Democrats are opposed to me for partisan issues. They used to be my friends. Now they're against me because anything that President Trump does, any decision he makes, has to be lampooned, derided, discredited, marginalized, vilified. I was called a conspiracy theorist because I said red dye caused cancer. And now FDA has acknowledged that and banned it.
Just recently, President Trump's Commerce Secretary pick, Howard Lutnick, also faced a hearing. He defended Trump's tariff promises. Watch.
And can you commit to the American people that prices will not go up?
I can commit that the economy of the United States of America will be much, much better. A particular product's price may go up, but all of them, this is not inflationary. The two top countries with tariffs, India and China, do have the most tariffs and no inflation. It is just a nonsense that tariffs cause inflation. It is nonsense. It is an action of domestic policy. Shut your border and stop allowing fentanyl into our country, killing our people. So this is a separate tariff to create action from Mexico and action from Canada. And as far as I know, they are acting swiftly. And if they execute it, there will be no tariff.
And that's exactly what President Trump explained to me when I interviewed him right before the election, that he uses tariffs as leverage, but he's not afraid to institute them anyway. We've talked about the president's agenda, and I want to get your take, Mario, because you mentioned earlier deregulation.
Absolutely.
And there's many people who believe President Trump's deregulation is actually anti-inflationary.
It's deflationary.
Correct.
100% right. So I can only speak of my business. There are so many empty suits, corporate executives, superfluous paperwork, protocol, PMP, policy and procedure. Deregulation will be a greater win for us than any type of tariffs, inflation or deflation. And tariffs, I agree with you, Maria. It is 100%. It's a leverage tool. Look what he just did with Colombia. Oh, guys, you're not going to accept these illegal immigrants that are criminals. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to tariff you till next Tuesday. Yeah. So it's good for policy. We do bring in revenue as well. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a tool to get things done with our policy. And deregulation, in my mind, as a business owner, as an investment advisor, is the most important thing right now.
Now, having said that, these tariff proposals, he wants to put 25% tariff on Mexico, 25% tariff on Canada this Saturday. Okay, he said 10% on China potentially this Saturday. That's February 1st. I don't think this is going to go through on February 1st. I think he's going to put a stay on this, and we're going to see where this goes. But we'll see. Even if he does rearrange the USMCA deal, which, by the way, he put together in the first place, he's just going to make it better, Jonathan. He's going to try to make it better for the American people. He put that amendment in USMCA when he did the deal in his first term, that in 6 years I can actually play around with this and change it. And that's what he's doing. He's making changes.
Exactly. He's looking out for Americans' interest. And it is so funny that what you're talking about from Sunday, immediately Colombia changed their tune.
Oh, the president of Colombia got in line right away. Right? President Trump said you got a 25% tariff now, and then in a week it goes up to 50%.
And then he sends
jump? How high?
Sends his own plane to pick him up.
Right.
I'll
send the presidential jet.
We're done being walked on. Right. We have a president that puts our country, our citizens first instead of everyone else first, and it's going to make a big difference for American citizens.
And we're the best best country in the world. So we have the power. You know, it's the golden rule. The man who has the gold makes the rules. So if they're not going to come to the table, guess what? Then we'll tear up and we'll push our agenda.
Get in line, or you're going to wish you did.
Well, it's nice to see some toughness back in the White House, frankly. I mean, it's nice to see some leadership.
We wouldn't need to have it, Maria, if we had not been getting, I won't say the word, but SOL in America. Like, okay, we're a part of the NATO alliance, but we're providing X amount of the funding, and the rest of the European countries are not. What are they providing? Like, what's happening? You know, so Trump has always been about not letting America get the bill and providing it for the rest of the world. If we have problems with our own veterans and our own homeless populations, our sanctuary cities that are asking the federal government for more money, why aren't these countries paying their fair share of all of these global organizations that America funds for?
Yep. The first 2 weeks of the Trump administration has been incredible. I mean, I think most people expected the policies to be celebrated. I don't think people understood the pace with which President Trump
the power
would begin.
The velocity.
The pace, the rapid, moves, I think surprised lots of people.
He signed more executive orders on his inauguration day than Biden did in the last 4 years in one day.
What was Joe Biden doing, by the way? And then he went with the First Lady and toured North Carolina and Los Angeles.
That was a fantastic day.
And you saw what he did when he was on the ground. He didn't just look at the damage. He did a roundtable discussion so he could actually learn what the heck happened here. And he already knew it going in because he's criticized their management of water and forestry and everything else. All right, we are just getting started this hour. We've got a lot coming up. Stay with us. We're following breaking news this morning on the Washington, D.C. plane collision. We've got more on that. And then we have a live press conference that we'll take you to at 7:30, 20 minutes away. So stay with us. We'll learn more about that collision then. The Fed held rates steady yesterday, as expected. The first Fed meeting of the year. The Word on Wall Street panel is here with expectations there. You're watching Mornings with Maria live on Fox Business. We'll be right back.
And finally, Maria, President Trump and Meta have reached a $25 million settlement over this 2021 lawsuit. That came from Trump's account suspension following January 6th. Now, the deal includes it's $22 million for Trump's presidential library. The rest goes to legal fees and the other plaintiffs, more importantly, that had signed on to the case. Meta is not going to have to admit any wrongdoing, by the way, when they censored the president at the time. And remember that. His legal team is calling this a victory in general over censorship by big tech. And it's interesting, in the heels of this, of course, on the inauguration, there was Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes, in fact, we were at the table together for the Sunday night dinner, the candlelight dinner. Mark Zuckerberg was there at our table as well with President Trump. I was honored to be there. And it looked like the two do have a very good relationship, actually. Mario, your reaction?
Yeah, I think it's great that one of the best companies in the United States with Meta is getting along with the president. I think the earnings call last night when Mark Zuckerberg said, hey, we now have a leader that is prioritizing American technology. You see that the past is the past. They're making amends. And I actually think it's going to be great for Trump and the administration, AI, Meta, and all of us individually.
Well, to see this kind of strength around President Trump when it comes to technology is very it's comforting to know that he's got David Sachs. He's got all of these other tech bigwigs in his corner.
And this is a major turnaround from 2016. When Silicon Valley had an agnostic relationship towards Trump. Now, guess what? They're embracing Trump, and they know he'll be for the betterment of the country.
And that's what it was like in Davos as well. On the ground, we witnessed an incredible shift in sentiment on the ground. Just an anecdote: when I first walked in to the meeting of the World Economic Forum, I saw two men rushing out of the Congress Center, and one said to the other, "Don't worry, I know somebody who knows him. I'm going to get you." See that? President Trump. We got to get a meeting with President Trump. And then Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft, said, "Look, President Trump is not here, but it's all about President Trump. His name is being invoked in every meeting." Jonathan.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how things have changed from 2016 to now, and everyone's jumping on the Trump bandwagon. I don't want to use like a Democrat word, but the vibes are different in D.C. this time than last time. time. Yeah. And it is remarkable, but it's a good thing for the American people having, big tech at least not fighting President Trump. And what went on with the censorship was unconscionable with the last administration, censoring not just Donald Trump, but lots and lots of other people that didn't even have the resources to fight back. So hopefully we're done in that era in America where we censor views we don't like.
That's right.
And I think big tech knows the American citizens voted, and they want this type of leadership in. There's nowhere to hide. So either you got to join the bandwagon or you get off the bandwagon.
I just want to point out to Maria that, yes, Meta might not have admitted, Cheryl, that they did anything wrong, but they lost. I mean, it was they have to pay. And this is, again, on top of ABC and then them having to pay. So he's kind of racking up some legal victories that are good precedents for hey, social media companies, maybe there's something to not censoring people.
He's going to have a nice library, too, at the end of this. Yeah.
It's a victory for the truth.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, you've got to thank Elon Musk as well for acquiring Twitter and turning it into X. That was a big help. Quick break, and then the latest details on the mid-air jet and chopper crash last night in Washington, D.C. We will take you there live. There is a desperate search for any recoveries this morning after the break. You're watching Mornings with Maria, live on Fox Business. Stay with us. Welcome back. We want to show you American Airlines stock. It is down 2% this morning. The company's regional jet was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members when it collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter last night over the Potomac River near Washington, D.C.'s Reagan Airport. The jet, operated by American's regional carrier PSA Airlines. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom released a video statement expressing, quote, his deep sorrows. As of this morning, more than 90 flights in the D.C. and Baltimore area are canceled, according to FlightAware. American Airlines stock is up nearly 22% over the last year. We wanted to give you a sense of what's happening this morning as there is a desperate search for anyone recovered. We have no sign of any survivors at this point. Let's get to the word on Wall Street. Top investors watching your money. Joining me now is Tuttle Capital Management CEO and Chief Investment Officer Matthew Tuttle. Also with us this morning is Mario Veneroso and Rebecca Walser. Great to see you. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
We were talking all about AI in the break, and I guess the two subjects, business related, this morning, earnings, AI, and the Federal Reserve. The Fed left interest rates unchanged yesterday, Matthew, and this was the first policy meeting of the year, offering a less confident view on inflation. Fed Chief Jay Powell still playing the wait-and-see game. Watch this.
With our policy stance significantly less restrictive than it had been and the economy remaining strong, we do not need to be in a hurry to adjust our policy stance. We know that reducing policy restraint too fast or too much could hinder progress on inflation. At the same time, reducing policy restraint too slowly or too little could unduly weaken economic activity and employment. We seem to be set up for further progress, but being seen to set up for it is one thing. Having it is another.
President Trump is accusing the Federal Reserve and Jay Powell of creating inflation. He wrote this on Truth Social. If the Fed had spent less time on DEI, gender ideology, green energy, and fake climate change, inflation would never have been a problem. Instead, we suffered from the worst inflation in our history of our country, writes President Trump on Truth Social. Matthew, he's referring to the $7 trillion in spending under the Biden-Harris administration, and much of that spending was to address the climate change agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got a couple of things here. You've had 4 years of Bidenomics, and the Fed has obviously been behind the curve on this. And that's caused a spike in inflation. I think now what we're seeing is a preview of the battle we're going to see for 4 years here, where you've kind of got to wonder, you've got a Fed that's behind the curve. The bond market's telling them they're behind the curve. Powell has been off his game. You know, Trump is being given all these levers to control inflation, to help improve the economy. Why can't he pull this one? I think that's going to bring up an interesting debate. Why is the Fed different than other agencies? Why can't we hold them accountable for what they've done? I mean, I think we should.
Yeah, so hold them accountable in terms of, I mean, President Trump has told me he will not reappoint Jay Powell to the Federal Reserve. So is that what you mean when you say hold accountable?
I mean, you know, the Fed is different than other agencies from the standpoint of they're making policy independent of what the president wants. And, I mean, other agencies can't do that.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, why? Why can't the president control this? You know,
well, everybody wants to see an independent Federal Reserve, but President Trump can say whatever he wants. I mean, people have opinions. He's got an opinion that the Fed is failing and has failed. And I don't have a problem with him saying things like that.
No, not at all, because I think they are. I mean, I agree with him. The whole inflation is transitory thing.
Yeah.
And, and again, you've got the bond market this year telling Powell that he's off.
So the Federal Reserve is also trying to anticipate what happens in the economy.
Yeah.
Right? We've been talking about the Trump agenda, but I want to get your take on earnings as well, because, Meta reported a double beat last night. Yeah. Meta is the one stock that's trading up this morning. The others are down. Sales were up 21% year over year, Mario. Net income skyrocketed 49%. They made nearly $21 billion in earnings. CEO Mark Zuckerberg started yesterday's earnings call by praising President Trump, saying that the White House, quote, prioritizes American technology winning. He expects 2025 to redefine the company's relationship with government, he said. Microsoft also reported a double beat. Its cloud business revenue came in lighter than expected, however. It also issued weaker guidance for the current quarter, and that stock is down better than 4%. And then there's Apple. It comes out tonight after the bell. Mario, what do you want to do with Apple going into the quarterly numbers?
So Microsoft did okay. Meta did great, and now let's talk about Apple. Apple needs innovations, and I want to see how are they going to adapt to AI. Meta did so well, Maria. A lot of it has to do with AI, and they saved the day. If you listen to the earnings call with Mark Zuckerberg, he was praising Trump. They're both on the same team now. He says we have a leadership that prioritizes American winning, and they're going to spend $65 billion on AI. So with all these reports this past week with DeepSeek, even if you believe the credibility of that report, that they built a new AI platform for $5 million. I have a lady on Canal Street that will sell you a Louis Vuitton bag, for $40 or $50. So my point in saying this is, I think this is going to be a hyperventilation moment in the market. Eventually, AI will be commoditized, but we're not there yet.
Amen.
Yeah. Real quick, Rebecca, in terms of the broader story, do you want to buy stocks going into the conclusion of this agenda out of the Trump administration, or do you want to sit on the sidelines and wait to see how this plays out?
I think they're overbought right now, so I'm going to be on a pause, and I definitely think we need to figure out the AI situation, because NVIDIA and both OpenAI came out and really were kind of like positive. Oh, this is great. We're glad to have a new competitor, but clearly there's some problems there with the chips, so we got to get that figured out.
All right, Matthew, good to see you. Thanks for joining the conversation. Matthew Tuttle, Mario, and Rebecca, you're with us all morning, and we're grateful. Quick break, and then welcome back. We are looking at the world's most admired companies. Korn Ferry and Fortune releasing the 2025 list, which ranks these companies on financial stability, innovation, leadership, and expansion. Coming in at number 1, Apple, followed by Microsoft, Amazon, NVIDIA, and Berkshire Hathaway. Rounding out the top 10, Costco, JP Morgan, Walmart, Alphabet, and American Express. Joining us now to talk more about it and break this story is Korn Ferry Vice Chairman and CEO, Alan Guarino. Alan, great to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us about these companies, what they have in common. What gives a company staying power on that list?
Well, what gives a company staying power on the list is just continued great leadership. The beauty of this list is you can't game it. 600 companies make up the universe. Fortune does that. Over 10,000 executives around the world are polled. And so it is what it is. You're getting the opinion of these executives, some in your peer group, if you're in a particular industry, and others across the board looking for the all-star list. So the fact of the matter is that we saw, I think, 8 or 9 companies in the industry list move up to number 1. So some moved down. At the end of the day, operating well, hitting those key measurables around attracting talent, quality management, use of resources. And then you're at the mercy of the executives around the world who are watching you and giving their opinion of how you're doing.
Well, I think it's really fascinating that this list has evolved so much toward tech. I mean, look at the top names on the list. It's all tech. Yeah. So it's a sign of the times because tech is so important in our economy. But why aren't more traditional names up there if you're the world's most admired companies list?
Yeah, so I'd be speculating, but I think it's natural selection. It's Adam Smith. Tech is part of every element of our day. Right? Yeah. We don't wake up in the morning thinking deeply about retail. Retail's important, but the fact of the matter is tech drives everything. And so I think it's kind of logical that tech would dominate top of mind when executives are talking about companies they admire.
Are companies doing anything differently in now Trump's second term in office? How are people adjusting and adapting?
So, I tell people all the time, CEOs are on treadmills. And by the way, treadmills run at different paces. New administration comes in, the treadmill speeds up. And by the way, with massive executive orders, changing things, taking things away, introducing new concepts, CEOs today basically have SWAT teams looking at all of this quick action, figuring out where are the opportunities, where are the threats, and then how are they going to take advantage of it. So honestly, exciting. It's kind of like going to a sports game. At the beginning of the season, they're interesting. When you get to the end of the season, things get frenetic, the stakes get higher. Well, guess what? This isn't the end of the season. It's the start of a new presidential administration. Massive change, exciting in terms of where are the opportunities, where are the threats. And this administration's moved quickly, so there's a lot for CEOs to digest. I think they're at a very high RPM on that treadmill.
Sure.
I want to pick up, Maria, on his point about Adam Smith's invisible hand, because all of the tech companies are in the top 10. I just want to say this. I think that we've seen something with this DeepSeek this week and, AI. It lets us know that anytime there's a new frontier of technology, there is usually some kind of irrational exuberance before it's monetized at scale. And these are the kinds of things that are going to happen until it's monetized at scale, Alan, that investors are going to have to experience. And sometimes it's going to be painful. So investors have to understand this is a new frontier. There's irrational exuberance, and there's got to be scalability. And until we get to monetization with scale, these things are going to happen. We'll get surprised. Oh, China can do it cheaper? Oh, crap. What are we going to do?
No, absolutely. No question about it. I'm old enough.
Does everything cheaper, right?
I'm old enough to think back to 1996 when there was this thing called the internet and email. And
exactly.
People were getting them printed out and reading them, having your admin answer the email, right? That took a while, but when adoption happens, it changes things big time.
And are you seeing that in your business? Tell us about your business and recruitment right now for jobs. What's in demand?
Oh, gosh. Well, we mirror the economy, right? So, healthcare, human services. By the way, government was tops in the last quarter. Given the way government's moving, that may change. At the end of the day, things are good. And I would say that last year was an average year for growth. We were digesting a lot of post-COVID exuberance.
Right.
And I'm very optimistic about the job market over the next couple of years. Politics aside, just where we settled and I think where opportunity comes from. Maria, I have to correct you just on one thing.
Yes.
My title is Vice Chairman of the Board and CEO practice, not CEO.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we wanted to give you a promotion.
Exactly.
That's okay. That job's too hard for me.
My apologies, and thank you for the correction. Alan, it's good to see you.
Great to see you as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Alan
me.
Guarino. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Appreciate it.
Central Bank moments ago cut interest rates as expected by 25 basis points. That is the fifth cut since June, coming out of the ECB. Joining us now is Calamos Investments President John Kadunas. John, great to see you.
Great to see you, Maria.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to get your take as we kick off this new year. We're already February 1 next week. How should investors be allocating capital?
Well, I think they have to be very careful. We are absolutely bullish with the new administration. Growth is in the air. We saw it in Davos. We saw it, in D.C. We're just seeing it. But it's a stock picker's market as well. As we go up, it's going to be volatile. As we see certain things the administration put into place, we're going to see the market go up and down, but mostly go up.
What have you seen from your firm at Calamos in terms of investor flows? Are you seeing that kind of optimism in terms of the money moves?
We're definitely seeing optimism. People are coming in, they're investing, they feel a lot more better about anytime you can deregulate and lower the regulations in Washington and take away the red tape, people feel a lot better about investing. And if you look at the sentiment of CEOs, 83% of all CEOs feel really positive about investing in their companies going forward.
And I think that has to do what we talked about earlier, Mario, and that was deregulation.
Yes.
Number one goal, deregulation. And I think with all the CEOs, and you said it best, there's been a systematic shift from, you could just see it recently with Davos. All these CEOs that were skeptical a few years ago are now optimistic, and there's almost animal spirits within the market. And I agree with that sentiment. I say once these policies get in place, and you running Calamos, you see it with your business too, we need a massive amount of deregulation that is going to be pro-growth and pro-business, not anti-business. And I agree with that sentiment. I think the markets ultimately go higher once these policies get in place. Taxes, deregulation, I think it'll be great for us.
Well, look, Trump's Commerce Secretary pick, Howard Lutnick, facing the Senate Commerce Committee yesterday where he defended Trump's tariff promises. Watch this.
We are treated horribly by the global trading environment. They all have higher tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers, and subsidies. We need to be treated with respect, and we can use tariffs to create reciprocity, fairness, and respect. I can commit that the economy of the United States of America will be much, much better. This is not inflationary. The two top countries with tariffs, India and China, do have the most tariffs and no inflation. It is just a nonsense that tariffs cause inflation. It is nonsense.
John, you agree with that? What is your take on this?
100%. I mean, China, India. The thing that people do not talk about, he's using it as a tool, number one. But number two, it's just to be fair. The only place he may want to go higher is China. But outside of that, he just wants reciprocity. And they're not talking about that. We're getting taxed all over the world. And he just wants to make it an even playing field for America to be able to come first.
That's right. That's right. Let's take a look at crypto. I want to get your take on this now. Trump media announced plans to launch a new financial services unit called TruthFi after complaints from Republicans about big banks discriminating against conservatives. TruthFi will invest up to $250 million with Charles Schwab, with funds allocated to cryptocurrencies, customized ETFs, and other investment vehicles. John, your company launched the world's first downside-protected Bitcoin ETF suite last week. Tell us about that. We just had Jim Grant on, and he was very critical of President Trump's meme coin. And let's be clear, there's nothing illegal about coming up with a meme coin, okay? But Jim Grant had a problem with the president backing something, given he is the commander-in-chief. He said it undermines credibility. Your reaction?
My reaction is, I think Bitcoin is here. It's here to stay. It's a very powerful tool. It's gotten really, really big. There's no arguing that in the last 10 years, Bitcoin has been the highest performing asset, period. Having said that, it's extremely volatile. And that's why Calamos, being good risk managers for over 47 years, were able to bring something to the market for people, a lot of people that haven't participated because they're scared, or some older people that can't lose principal. So a week ago Wednesday, we launched the first 100% downside protected ETF, CBOJ, where the cap rate came in at 11.65. It was a week ago Wednesday. And if you hold it for a year, guaranteed to get up to that upside, but no downside. And this upcoming Tuesday, we're going to launch two more. One that's 90% downside protected, so only 10% of a loss. We feel the cap rate's going to come anywhere between 28 to 31%. And 80% protected, which is up to 20% loss, where the cap rate's going to go up to 50 to 55%. So you can dial in and out as much risk as you want to take, but not just go long crypto, where a lot of people were scared because of its volatility.
And there's been a major shift the last few years with crypto, with institutional sponsorship. So as an advisor in the front lines, clients that were worried about crypto are now asking about crypto and having some type of downside volatility because it is the most riskiest asset. That could be very interesting.
Let's get some economic data just hitting the tape. The first read of fourth quarter GDP is out. Cheryl Casoni with the numbers. Cheryl.
Came in less than expected at 2.3%. The estimate, Maria, was for 2.6%, and this is much weaker than the third quarter of 2024. That read was 3.1%. So we are seeing a pullback in these GDP numbers. Did get initial claims, by the way, 207,000. That was actually less than expected. The estimate was 220,000. We got continuing claims coming in also less than expected, 1.858 million. The continuing estimate was 1.89 million. 1 point in the GDP I want to give to you is that 4.2% was consumption. It was consumer spending. And we're also just getting some data this morning from MasterCard that the consumer was spending in the fourth quarter. We also are seeing a little bit of strength in residential investment. That's offsetting other parts of the economy. Maria, back to you.
All right. Rebecca Walser, jump in. Your thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, mark my words. I know that the CEOs, COOs are absolutely assured that we're going to have more M&A, we're going to have more activity, deregulation. But I promise you, Maria, the official reads of data is going to come out more depressed now that the Trump administration is in than what we had had in the last year of under the Biden administration. Because
so are you saying they were cooking the books?
We had the most BLS revisions ever, except for the great financial crisis. So I think so.
Wow. Well,
just like cooking pasta sauce on Sunday.
Look, we questioned it every month, John. Okay, you get one number, a month later you got to revise it, and it's always revised downward.
Yes.
Okay. How about all those jobs that that never actually materialized, and the Biden administration had to admit it?
Huge revision.
Yes.
Remember?
Thank you.
The huge revision, and it wasn't explained.
Exactly. Right. Over $1 million.
It wasn't explained.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, but the macro story feels good to you? Okay.
I'm sorry?
The macro story.
Yes. I think macro, we're in the right direction. For sure, it's a pro-business administration, and that, in the long run, it's not going to happen overnight, but will show much positive gains, not just for us, but for the entire world.
John, thank you. Thanks for being here. John Kadunas, Calamos president. We'll be right back. Stay with us.